You're about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. I got the cold weather rhinitis. So where, your nose just decides to run, probably because, I don't know, it wants to be out in the cold. You would think all your boogers and everything would want to stay inside where it's nice and warm, and our core body temperature is about 98.6, although they're now debating that, our core body temperature. But man, the rhinitis of winter, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but man, my nose just won't stop running. Anyway, I want to quickly open today, because I know there's so much to talk about, but I went to see Mad Apple. It's a newer show at the New York and Las Vegas. And Las Vegas and their shows have really transformed over the last few decades. Now, my early memories, I'm Gen X, so I remember some stuff from the, 70s, barely 80s, and entertainment, in Las Vegas, it used to have boobies, right? Like Follies Bergère and Showgirls. Showgirls had to have boobies. And so people would come to Las Vegas so they could see boobies. And I always wondered how these women, because I kind of got boobies kind of early. Well, not really. I was 13 when I got my boobies. But man, I went from 0 to 90 and I'm like, I can't run. I can't do gymnastics. I'm having some problems here. My whole center of gravity is off. But barely these women are able to dance and do what they need to topless. And that's how a lot of entertainment was. You also had comedians, and then you had the Siegfried and Roy, but there was, nudity in shows. And then, after the Runnin' Rebels and Vegas starts to turn, into more of a sports and entertainment mecca, you start getting Broadway shows. Lion King came here and Jersey Boys. And then you start to have a lot of entertainment that didn't necessarily have to do with women running around with their boobies. And then, and people gawking at them. But then I'm noticing that now many of the shows are bringing sex back. And in fact, I see this with TV. I see this in movies. How much more sex can you put in? Now, Mad Apple was very good because it's Cirque du Soleil. And what they did is they incorporated not only the acrobatics, but they also had comedy. And they also had music. And some great singing. And I was like, okay, wow, good combination. Fantastic. Because now you mix all the arts. It was a good show. Mad Apple in New York, I recommend it. However, what I noticed with the audience is when the subject matter got dirty, that's when the audience liked it. So they had, I forget his name. They had I got to give credit where credit's due, but they had a comedian where he comes out on stage and he's like, and he's like all excited about, doing a Broadway show, even though it wasn't Broadway, it's off Broadway, Las Vegas Broadway. And then all of a sudden they have they have the whole Lion King thing going on. And apparently his art, because he was all excited about, the performing for people, his art was shadow puppets, shadow figures. So he starts doing shadow figures to the son of the Lion King during the Lion King song. And you're looking at that and you're like, okay, well, it's kind of funny. And then, of course, he takes a dirty turn with it where you see the animals fight and then they have sex. Then he makes bunnies on top of each other. And the crowd, that was like one of the crowd's favorite bits in the show. And you're like, okay, look, we had, contortionists, you had all this art, you had some amazing singers. And the funniest part of the show were two shadow figures of two meerkats having sex with each other, or two bunny rabbits. And, you look at the most famous shows like Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, it was interesting. It lost a lot of people first season. Because, one, what they did with the main character, no spoilers if you still haven't seen Game of Thrones, don't know what to tell you. It was really good. It's worth it. But in the first few episodes, maybe even the first episode, they have an incestual sex scene. Yeah, and I remember for me, I was like, I don't know if I want that much sex. I'd like to see some story. But and then eventually they really did get to good story. And in fact, even Khaleesi, Amelia Clark, eventually in her contract said, "Look, I'm gonna do less nudity." And actually, her character really got good. I mean, it doesn't always have to be about the nudity. And so one of the reasons why I like, the pit, all that is to be able to do a show that doesn't necessarily have, all that nudity and sex or kink or whatever, means that the writers are actually putting some work into it. And so I'm wondering if we're going to start making a turn where, yeah, you have a little bit of the sex and you got the dirty jokes and you all that. And trust me, I think that stuff is funny. I laugh to it, but that's not what I want all my entertainment to be. Do we really, really have to have sex? Do we really have to have boobies? Well, okay, I know a lot of people are like, yeah, I want to see boobies. But really? Even men, good looking men. They had a very good looking man, shirtless, in jeans doing some contortionist type stuff. And I mean, he had a gorgeous body, but I don't want to watch that the whole time. And it was good how they did it. They did, it was like they had the New York State of Mind song, and they were, showing him doing stuff on the Empire State Building. And it was actually really, really good, really beautifully done, very artistic. But again, just a little bit of it. We don't necessarily need to have all these, shows or episodes where it is just all sex and maybe some people like that, but then you have porn. You don't necessarily need to molest, the regular mainstream entertainment. And I'm also noticing in news, they're starting to bring up bad words. You're hearing people say BS, the F word on national news. And I mean, is this where we're going now, where we just have to, because you're going to run into a wall. There's only so much you could do. And I remember when I was little, there would be like a movie, in the 70s and 80s, and there would be a bad word. And I remember, everybody giggling that there was a bad word in the movie. Now we're just so immune to it that I think it's just too much. So I really commend a lot of these, shows and entertainers and all that are trying to just bring back regular entertainment. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away. All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So for us doctors, it was not our finest hour when yesterday, at the U.S. Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Help Committee, looking at abortion pill safety, one of our own, a doctor, couldn't answer a simple question. Dr. Nisha Verma, who is from what I understand, a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist, practicing. I don't know too much about where she trained, but here's a doctor that is at this hearing who provides gynecological care, not being able to answer if a man can get pregnant. Republican Senator Josh Hawley repeatedly asked her, can men get pregnant? Simple yes or no. And she went to medical school. She couldn't answer the question. I want you guys to hear the clip.
Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics. So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
come on.
Can men
I
get
take care
pregnant?
of many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women.
Answer the
Can
question.
men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying,
Let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. So can men get pregnant? You're a
totally
doctor, I
agree.
think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool. And
No, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I, as a physician, come on, listen, I understand that there are people that identify as male or female. I get that. I get the identification. But all Senator Hawley was asking of a physician who is taking care of individuals is, do biological men have the ability, XY, do they have the fallopian tubes, the ovary, the pituitary the organs and the neurotransmitters and the hormonal? Do they have the ability to get pregnant and nourish a baby in the uterus? I don't understand why she couldn't answer the question. And this is what bothers me. I understand that she might be a part of the woke crowd, right? But when you're talking about you taking care of patients and you stepping back and taking something that's science, that's obvious, and refusing to answer, what is she fearful of? Who is she afraid of? See, I'm a physician. What am I afraid of? Well, I'm afraid of missing the cancer. I'm afraid of mistreating a patient. I'm afraid of losing a medical license. I'm afraid of a trivial malpractice lawsuit. Right? But are you afraid of just saying, yeah, biological male XY can't get pregnant? Why is she so fearful of, she could have very easily answered, biological males, and I don't know why this subject came to that if they were talking about abortion pills, why this came to that. Maybe it's because now we're hearing a lot of doctors don't call women, they call them birthing persons, which a lot of women don't like, by the way. I got to tell you, I earned my stripes. I gave birth to 2 kids, multiple days of labor, 5 full days of labor with one, close to 5 with the second. I earned my stripes. I'm a woman. Come on, man. But you have a doctor, an obstetrician gynecologist, who studies the vagina, who studies the uterus, who understands maternal fetal medicine, has to be aware of the risks, and she can't answer a question. She could answer it. I don't want people freaking out that in medical school we don't learn, that biological men are XY, and we learn that, but she won't answer it, which means she's putting politics over medicine, over science. She's also putting her own hide first. What is she so fearful of? We have men, we have women, we have people identified as men and identified as women, but biological males and transgender males are different entities. You could answer the question. Ketanji Brown Jackson, the Supreme Court Justice. What is the definition of a woman? Couldn't answer that. Wouldn't answer that. And that was kind of ironic because Biden said he was going to nominate a woman for the Supreme Court. which means if she can't define it, then she wouldn't qualify. But if she applied, that means somehow she thought she was a woman. So she has to have a definition somehow. This is embarrassing because I'm a doctor, and we are supposed to never put politics above patient health or patient safety. Never, ever, 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 ever. And if I'm not clear, ever. You're never supposed to. Because patients have, they're going to you because you're a scientist. Doctors are scientists. Now, we could reevaluate the science as it pertains to vaccines and vaccine safety and nutrition and food pyramids. And are we making the best decision? Are we not? Are there risks to Tylenol on a developing fetus when some studies over the last few decades have said, yes, there are? Of course, that's our job to reevaluate. But when you're talking about something as basic as having the reproductive organs or not, come on, man. You have to be able to say what it is. And it's interesting because in medical schools, they are, they had been, and until now I'm hearing recently that students are getting kind of confused because they're like, well, where do I put on the chart? If the person's identifying as a female, we need to know if they have testicles. We need to know if they have a prostate, so somebody is looking for prostate cancer and testicular cancer. We need to know if a transgender male has ovaries. You have to be able to put that in the chart. And so now medical schools are falling all over each other, especially the woke ones, on, well, okay, you could say, they're a male, identifying as male, but then you could put in a small corner some of the body parts they have. Okay, listen, you're coming to me with abdominal bloating. I need to know, are we looking at ovarian cancer? Are we looking at a perforated ulcer? Are we looking at testicular cancer? I need, because that's my job. I'm supposed to do my job. There was a patient who identified as male, was undergoing some sort of mental health crisis, and I was with my medical students, and he said that his testicles were removed, and he has been bleeding ever since the surgery. Ever since the surgery, and his testicles were removed 20 years ago. And I asked him, I go, this is before we had him undress, I go, how often are you bleeding? Is it every day? And he said, no, every 30 days or every month I'm bleeding. So when we and he consented to undressing, she had a vagina. Now he might have identified as male and thought somebody took his testicles away, and that's gender dysphoria. He is identifying as somebody he biologically is not, and it's a biological female. But we as medical professionals need to know I'm thinking, testicular surgery bleeding. Is there a nicked vessel that's never getting closed? Are we looking at anemia? It's a menstrual cycle. So we have to, in science, know and be able to say male or female. I don't get it. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away. Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So Wallet Hub has their annual Best States to Raise a Family. And I am getting sick and tired of seeing Nevada, where I'm from, always ranking in the bottom 5 or 10 of some of these things. And I'll tell you where they came up with the rankings. But, you know, if you're a young couple and you're thinking about, you know what, I want to raise a family and I want to find the best place to raise a family in. See, I wouldn't be thinking about surveys. You know, I would be thinking, well, where do I have family support? Where can I afford a house? Do I have access to churches and temples or mosques or whatever I believe in? How are the schools? Now, is there such a push, you know, for politics over academics? Now, will my child become proficient in things? What does the job market look like? Are things affordable? So that's how I would look at things. Well, Wallet Hub has this, and they do a good job, you know, for the most part in their metrics. I just don't like how Nevada keeps dropping to the bottom of these things. So they are looking at what states provide a more supportive environment. They look at affordability with safety, strong job opportunities, access to quality education, healthcare, and entertainment. So they say to identify which states, sorry, I got my winter rhinitis. To identify which states offer the most family-friendly conditions, they looked at 50 states using 50 indicators, looking at median annual family income, housing affordability, healthcare quality, crime rates, and school performance. And so Wallet Hub analyst Chip Lupo says raising a family has become significantly more expensive in recent years as the cost of living has risen quickly. In fact, it can cost a family as much as $320,000 to raise a child to age 18. Now, they obviously don't have 2 boys. I'm going to say we blew that number out. Once they hit puberty, I mean, they're eating that much in a month. According to statistics from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, they say in light of the expensive nature of being a parent and the responsibility it entails, it's important to live in a city that is affordable while still providing quality healthcare, education, safety, and opportunities for enrichment. So I don't criticize Wallet Hub. I kind of like this because I might be thinking, well, let's go rural. let's go as rural as possible. You seem to have more community control. You have more community. You have more of a you belong feel. You can actually steer how education goes because you have a voice. However, if the nearest hospital is 2 hours away, that could be an issue, especially if you need to give birth or you have a child that has special needs. So it does take all those factors into account. So who won? Who was the top state? Massachusetts. And one of the reasons why Massachusetts made number one is because their education and child care index was one of the top. Then came Minnesota. Now, interestingly, Minnesota is beautiful. Minnesota has some amazing schools, has some really good hospitals, they always seem to be at the center of riots and all that. And so I don't know how well they would rate from a safety standpoint, but they rate number 2 overall. North Dakota came in number 3, then Wisconsin, and then Nebraska. So as you could see, predominantly Midwest seemed to rank high. Then number 6 came New York. New York, even though New York had one of the lowest ratings of socioeconomics rank, they ranked very high in this because of family fun. Now, I've lived in New York. There's not a lot of parks. There's not a lot of. I like New York a lot. I would have fun, but that's interesting how that's how they ranked really high. Then came Connecticut, New Hampshire, Illinois, and Maine rounded out the top 10. Then came South Dakota, Pennsylvania, Washington, New Jersey, Colorado. Then Rhode Island, Vermont, Utah, Iowa, Maryland, rounding out the top 20. Ohio, Oregon, Hawaii, Wyoming, and Montana, the top half. Then came Virginia, Missouri, Kansas, California, Idaho, Indiana, Delaware. By the way, California ranked first in family fun rank. Well, yeah, they got Disneyland, but, can you afford Disneyland? Idaho, Indiana, Delaware, Tennessee, Texas, and Michigan rounding out the top 35. North Carolina, Alaska, Kentucky, Arizona, Florida, 36-40. Alaska. Why didn't Alaska? I mean, you know how much family fun they have in Alaska? You could fish, you could ski, you could sled, but maybe it's because they don't have enough hospitals. I'm not sure. They have great health care up in Alaska. Then you have Georgia, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama. Actually, rounding out the bottom 5, Alabama, Nevada, Mississippi, West Virginia, and New Mexico ranked the lowest in family fun, health and safety. Overall affordability, socioeconomics rank, health and safety rank. All right, so does this mean everybody needs to move to Massachusetts? I love Massachusetts. I love Boston. I think I can live in Massachusetts easy. Salem, the people were a little kind of weird and mean. No place to park. Salem wasn't as fun as I thought it would be, but it was still nice town. But when you look at this, why is Nevada? And I'm in Nevada, so I care about that. I talk about every state because I know many of you listen from other states. But Nevada apparently had a higher rating for like family and fun, because we have really improved a lot of things that kids could do in Nevada. This isn't just about casinos and boobies, but our affordability tanked. We were at the bottom of socioeconomic rank. Now, why is that? Well, here's the thing. We have a lot of Californians that come in, and they have money because they sell their multi-million-dollar home and then could buy a $600,000 home in Vegas. And I really do believe that a lot of developers, a lot of companies, and a lot of Californians have changed the cost of housing because they could afford it. After the Pacific Palisades fires, people say, well, the housing prices are going to go down eventually. I'm like, no, not after the Palisades fire last year, because many Californians are going to say, to hell with this. I'm not going to wait 5 years for my house to be rebuilt. I'll move to Vegas where I could pay cash for a house. And so in Nevada, we also, Northern Nevada, the same thing. We have a lot of Northern California people moving in. We welcome you. I think you guys are great. It's just now we have people being able to squash that price point easy with cash purchases from selling their California expensive home. And then Nevada starts to go up. You also have big disparities in terms of middle class versus lower income versus higher income. There's so many higher income homes. We have Tom Brady out here. Mark Wahlberg. I mean, we have all these stars that have moved out here, buying up a lot of the homes that could have, been in the, sights of individuals who might have been, middle income, upper income, and you have a big shift in a lot of those homes and those costs that now so many homes in areas that should have been $400,000-$500,000 are already now at $1 million home. Nobody wants to spend that. Nobody can spend that. And then, unfortunately, cheaper housing is hard to find because there's not enough houses. And there, with the way the housing market is, if you have $125,000 burning a hole in your pocket and you want to think you can't buy anything with $125,000, you can't. So you could rent an apartment and then you just rent and you never get to buy a home. And so there is that issue that Nevada has to fix. And I know the governor is working on that. Governor Lombardo was working on that. Also, our price point for things is ridiculous. And I don't know if it's because these restaurants or casinos are expecting everybody from California, but a drink cannot cost $17 or $22 for a drink of alcohol. You can't be doing that. $20 beers. Come on, man. I mean, this is the type of stuff that Nevada's doing. And so, and gas prices going down. There's some places where we're seeing it $3 a gallon. But really, why isn't Nevada having gas prices similar to the rest of the country where it's in the $2? So I don't know if it's because we're anticipating that we have California money that we'll spend no matter what we charge out here. I don't know, but it is. I think Nevada should not be it used to be an affordable place. That's why my family moved here. My family was in California. They couldn't afford to live in California, so they moved to Arizona and they moved to Nevada. So, now in terms of healthcare, we got some really good doctors here. So I really like the healthcare in Nevada. But do we have enough beds? Do we have enough hospitals? Do we have enough doctors and nurses? No. So we got to improve that if we want to rank higher. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away. We are back on Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So you as a patient are expecting that your medical providers or these medical groups are always ensuring that everything you do is safe. Everything you are doing is with the up-to-date science and best practices. And if there are any questions, those questions be evaluated. If there's longstanding science, we ensure that quote unquote longstanding science is still backed, is still the case and still relevant to this day and age, and that you are hoping that any sort of advice that you are given is not tainted by any political platform or political narrative. That is what American medicine is supposed to be. Well, one thing that me and a lot of doctors are very confused about is how we have such a divide, even within the medical community, of what RFK Jr. is doing as it pertains to looking at vaccine safety, looking at necessities of the numerous amounts of vaccines that kids are getting. As I'm a fan of vaccines, but I do understand that parents are very concerned about the numbers where we give more vaccines than most other countries. And, should this be reevaluated? Now, in science, you're supposed to reevaluate, but apparently there are multiple medical associations that do tend to run liberal, wanting to fight RFK Jr. and fight some of the latest recommendations. The American Academy of Pediatrics said Wednesday that it's part of an effort with the American College of Physicians, the American Public Health Association, the Massachusetts Public Health Alliance, the Infectious Diseases Society of America, and Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine. They are wanting to stop next month's scheduled meeting of the CDC's independent vaccine advisors. Now, Robert F. Kennedy had fired the previous administration's advisors, hired new ones, which seems to happen, in different administrations. That's what Biden fired Trump, one first term leaders, and then Trump fired Biden's. I mean, that's what seems to happen. That happens. But RFK Jr. is not putting doctors on the panel that are he's not putting non-doctors, people that don't have board certification and training. He's not putting people on the board that really don't know how to answer if biological men could give birth. Now, these are individuals that are practicing, that have accolades and education that will help lead the effort to ensure that whatever we are advising to everybody is safe. And I don't understand why, I understand why. I understand what it is. Doctors that are a part of these groups, because it's interesting. I am a part of the American Academy of Family Physicians. That's what you do. When you are a family doctor, you'll belong to your member group. And boy, is it split down the middle. I think it's more people thinking more like, let's make sure what we're doing is safe than the opposite. But you have people pushing within that say, well, we got to buck RFK Jr. We have to buck him. We have to buck him. And I get RFK Jr. is not a physician. And I've always said, I think whoever runs the HHS should be a physician. But Obama had Kathleen Sebelius. Biden had Javier Becerra, I think. Yeah, they're apparently whoever's running them are suits. They're not necessarily physicians, but then what they do is they make sure, like RFK Jr. has had Dr. Oz, Dr. McCary, he has physicians run, the individual medical aspects, because Health and Human Services involves not only medical issues, but also other aspects, such as like food in schools. And so, I get how we don't always get to have a physician run the HHS, but as long as there are physicians involved helping steer some of the medical health aspects, I'm fine with that. And that's what RFK Jr. has done. But the HHS announced changes to the vaccine schedule, and this is where everybody's getting their panties in a bunch. Well, not everybody, half the country's getting their panties in a bunch, because some of the vaccines that have been recommended is everybody gets it no matter what, like the COVID vaccine. That has drawn a lot of criticism and questioning going, is that really necessary? Let's only do what's necessary for these kids. And so hepatitis B, hepatitis A, some meningococcal disease. Now, this is what's being debated. Now, I really like kids protected against meningitis. I also think if you are going to college or you're going to be in jail or, et cetera, getting a meningitis vaccine is very advantageous. But you have a lot of individuals who are not going to school. So do they not get the meningitis vaccine? They don't plan on going to jail. Do we know enough about that where we should just have why not every single adult get it? So reevaluating who should get the meningococcal vaccine, is warranted. Hepatitis A and hepatitis B. I had to get hepatitis A vaccinated if I wanted to work in a restaurant. And so when I was 18 years old and I worked as a hostess because I wasn't allowed to wait tables till I was 21, I had to get a hepatitis A vaccine to get my health card to be able to work in a restaurant. And that was fine. I supported that. Does every single child need a hepatitis A vaccine? Now, hepatitis can kill, but does every single child have to have that, or can it be by choice? Parents, these are all the vaccines we offer. Tetanus required, polio required. These are vaccines that we do. But do you also want your child protected against hepatitis A? Hepatitis B, that one I also support, but I do like the idea of discussing with the family and maybe not doing it at 1 day old. Let the child, breathe some air, get their immunity up a little bit. It's been safe overall, but a lot of parents are like, I'll pass. Hepatitis B vaccination is important for that child to get at some point. I really do believe. But if a parent doesn't want it at the 1 day old mark or with their 2 months and 6 months because they're already getting so many vaccines and they want their child to get it a little bit later, I could understand that. Now, for my child, though, he still needed to get it when he was younger because he was in daycare when somebody bit him and broke his skin. So if your child is going to be bit by another kid and you think that risk is high, this isn't about your child having sex or your child doing drugs. This is your child being exposed to hepatitis in daycare or by another family member. So that's why hepatitis B started to be introduced more and then was a part of the regular vaccine schedule. But not all countries do that. They leave it to the choice of the parents. Now, flu vaccines. Do all kids have to have a flu vaccine? If the flu vaccine worked, that would be fantastic. But since the flu vaccine, it works to a degree, and I think it does mitigate severe flu. And I'm a fan of that. But does every child need that as well? So my answer with that is one, again, if the parents want it, if their child is susceptible, all the power to them. But until we know if 6 shots in the little bitty thigh of a child is 1,000% safe, can we at least just reevaluate? What a lot of parents like to do is a delayed schedule where I'm not going to give 6 all at once. What I'm going to do is we'll do 1 or 2 at a time. And I understand a lot of doctors are a little concerned about that because they might not come back. They might not finish the series. In this day and age, people don't have the same doctor anymore. But when you used to have one family physician or pediatrician, they could say, look, okay, what we'll do is every couple months, and then we'll get you up to speed. We'll get them up to speed, and this way we can watch for reactions. But, I understand that there's a lot of debate. And as I said, I'm pro-vaccine, but I'm also pro-ensuring that we are reevaluating safety and necessity. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription.
Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.